Hyun sat in the dim light of the archive chamber, his three eyes scanning through data files that had not been opened in thousands of years. The dust particles floated in the air around him, catching the blue glow of his screen. He was a researcher, had been for most of his long life, and he loved finding old stories that others had forgotten. But this story was different. Humans. He whispered the word aloud, testing how it sounded. The translator in his earpiece struggled with it, as if the word itself was from a language too old to remember. Bora walked into the chamber carrying 2 cups of warm liquid. She was younger than Hyun, her scales still bright green instead of the faded color that came with age. She set 1 cup beside him and looked at his screen. "Still reading those old tales?" she asked. "You have been looking at that same file for 3 days now." Hyun pointed at the screen. "Because this is not just a tale, Bora. Look at this. These are reports, actual reports from explorers who claimed they found evidence of this species." Bora leaned closer and read the text. Her face showed doubt. "Hyun, this says that these humans could run for days without stopping. That they could survive in temperatures that would boil our blood or freeze our hearts. That they ate poisonous plants and drank acid for pleasure." She stepped back and laughed softly. "This is clearly fiction. Someone made these stories to scare people." But Hyun shook his head. He opened another file, then another. "Every civilization in the Galactic Union has a story about them. The Velkari called them the persistent ones. The Moth people called them those who do not stop. The Crystalline Collective called them the Adapters. Different names, but always the same descriptions." He pulled up an image that made Bora step back in shock. It showed a creature standing on 2 legs like most intelligent species, but its body was wrong. Too thick, too solid. Its eyes faced forward like a hunter, not to the sides like proper prey species. "According to these records," Hyun continued, "humans evolved on a planet they called Earth, a death world. Class 12 danger rating. Class 12? Bora's voice rose in pitch. "That is impossible. No intelligent life can evolve on a Class 12 world. The gravity alone would crush developing bones. The predators would eat any species before it could develop tools. Unless," Hyun said slowly, "that species became the apex predator." The room fell silent. In all the thousands of species in the Galactic Union, none were apex predators. Every civilized race had evolved from prey animals, creatures that survived by running, hiding, or cooperating. The idea of a predator developing intelligence was the stuff of nightmares. Bora sat down heavily in the chair beside Hyun. "Why are you researching this? These humans are extinct, yes? These records are thousands of years old." Hyun pulled up his most recent discovery. 3 days ago, I found something in the restricted archives. A star system labeled as quarantined. The name of the system is Sol, and in the old human language, Sol means sun. Their sun. "Many systems are quarantined," Bora said, but her voice was uncertain now. "Dead worlds, failed colonies, places with dangerous radiation. This one is different." Hyun entered a command and a new file appeared. It was marked with red symbols that meant danger. 2 weeks ago, our deep space sensors detected a signal from the Sol system. An artificial signal. Someone is alive there. Bora stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "No, Hyun, no. If even a small part of these legends is true, we should leave that system alone. Seal it, forget about it." But Hyun was already preparing a report. "I have to tell the Council. If an intelligent species exists that we do not know about, it is our duty to make contact." "Our duty?" Bora's scales turned dark with fear. "Hyun, these stories say that humans hunted other predators for sport, that they looked at impossible challenges and chose to face them instead of running, that they bonded with other predators and made them into pets. One story says that humans would fight each other just to see who was stronger, and then the winner and loser would become friends afterward. Does that sound like a species we want to meet?" Hyun saved his report and stood up. "These are just stories, Bora. Exaggerations. If humans are real, they are probably just another species trying to survive like the rest of us." 3 days later, Hyun stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from 100 different worlds. Some breathed oxygen like him. Others required different atmospheres and sat in sealed chambers. Some were large, some small, but all of them had one thing in common. They were descendants of prey species. Hyun presented his findings. He showed the ancient texts, the signal from the Sol system, the probability calculations that suggested humans might still exist. Most of the council members listened politely, but without much interest. Old legends did not concern them. They had trade disputes to resolve, colonies to manage, treaties to sign, but then Elder Vextar spoke. Vextar was old, older than anyone else in the chamber. His species lived for thousands of years, and he had been a council member for longer than some civilizations had existed. When he spoke, everyone listened. "I remember," Vextar said, his voice like rocks grinding together. "I was young when the quarantine was placed on the Sol system. My grandfather told me why." The chamber fell completely silent. The humans were not extinct, Vextar continued. They were sealed away, locked behind warnings and forbidden zones because the species that found them were terrified, not because humans attacked them, but because of what humans were capable of. "Capabilities can be good," someone said from the back of the chamber. "Technology, science, art." "You misunderstand," Vextar interrupted. "I do not mean what they could build. I mean what they could endure, what they could survive, what they considered normal." He turned his ancient eyes on Hyun. "The legends do not lie, researcher. Every story you have found is true. And if humans have now developed technology to send signals into space, it means they have advanced far beyond where we left them. Then we must make contact," Hyun insisted. "We cannot ignore an intelligent species. It goes against everything the Union stands for." Vextar was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Very well. Send your expedition, but send warriors with you, not scientists. And when you meet these humans, remember this. They come from a world that tried to kill them every single day. They evolved surrounded by creatures that wanted to eat them. Their bodies are built to survive damage that would kill any of us instantly. And despite all of this, they did not just survive. They thrived. They conquered their entire planet. Every environment. Every challenge." He paused, then finished with words that made Hyun's blood cold. "The stories spoke of monsters called humans. I pray for all our sakes that the monsters have learned to be kind." The council voted. The expedition was approved. Hyun had won, but as he left the chamber, he could not shake the feeling that he had made a terrible mistake. Bora was waiting for him outside. "We are really doing this?" she asked. Hyun nodded. "We leave in 1 week. The ship is being prepared now." Bora looked up at the artificial sky above the council station, toward the stars that held countless worlds and countless species. Somewhere out there, in a quarantine system, something waited. "I hope you are right," she said quietly. "I hope they are just another species trying to survive." But deep down, neither of them believed that anymore. The legends were too consistent, too detailed, too afraid. In 7 days, they would find out the truth. In 7 days, the monsters would be real. Captain Tay stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, watching the blue and green planet grow larger on the screen before him. Earth. The legendary Death World. It looked beautiful from space, covered in swirling white clouds and vast oceans. It looked peaceful. But Tay knew looks could be deceiving. "Captain, we are receiving multiple targeting locks," his navigator reported, her voice steady despite the obvious threat. 17 different sources. Some from the planet's surface, some from orbital platforms we did not detect before, and 3 from vessels moving to intercept us. Tay had expected this. Any intelligent species would defend their home. "Hold position. Do not power weapons. Send the peaceful contact message on all frequencies." Beside him, Yuna stepped forward. She was the chief diplomat, chosen for this mission because of her ability to stay calm in difficult situations. She had negotiated peace between warring colonies, had resolved trade disputes that almost became wars, but Tay could see her neck scales were pale with nervousness. "Message sent, Captain," the communications officer said. "We are broadcasting in all known languages plus mathematical sequences to show intelligence." They waited. The seconds felt like hours. Behind them, at the security station, Doyen checked his weapons for the 5th time. He was responsible for the safety of everyone on the ship, and he did not trust this situation. Ancient legends about monster species did not make for comfortable first contact scenarios. "Captain, we have a response," the communications officer said suddenly. "Audio and visual. The signal is surprisingly clear. Their technology is more advanced than we estimated." "Put it on screen," Tay ordered. The main display changed. A face appeared, and every person on the bridge froze. It was human. The face was flat compared to most species, with two eyes positioned at the front like a predator. The skin was smooth and had a warm brown color. Black hair covered the top of the head. When the human smiled, Tay could see teeth that were designed for both tearing meat and grinding plants. Omnivore teeth. Predator teeth. This is Officer G1 of the Earth Defense Network, the human said. The translator worked perfectly, converting the sounds into words they could understand. Welcome to our solar system. We have been expecting visitors for a very long time. Please state your intentions. Tay glanced at Yuna, who nodded and stepped forward. This is the Galactic Union exploration vessel Bright Wing. We come in peace, seeking to establish diplomatic relations with your species. We apologize for entering your space without prior contact, but we only recently discovered that your species still exists. The human, Jiwan, tilted its head slightly. The gesture seemed curious. Still exists? Were you expecting us to be gone? There was an awkward pause. How did you tell a species that everyone thought they were extinct or just a scary story? We had incomplete information, Yuna said carefully. Our records indicated that your system was uninhabited. We are pleased to learn this is not true. Jiwan's smile widened. I see, well, we are very much alive. And yes, we are interested in meeting our neighbors. However, I must warn you, our planet's environment may not be suitable for you. Our gravity is significantly higher than standard, our atmosphere is oxygen-rich, and our biological contamination protocols are strict. We understand, Yuna said. Perhaps we could meet on neutral ground. A space station or one of our vessels. That would be acceptable, Jiwan agreed. We have a diplomatic shuttle prepared. We can meet at your current position in 6 hours. Is that suitable? 6 hours. Most species would need days to prepare a diplomatic mission, to get approval from governments to select representatives. Humans were ready in 6 hours. That is very suitable, Tay said. We look forward to meeting you in person. The transmission ended. For a moment, no one on the bridge spoke. They seemed friendly, Yuna said, but her voice was uncertain. Doyen pulled up the visual recording of Jiwan and began analyzing it. Look at the muscle structure visible in the neck and arms. Very dense, and the bone structure of the face suggests the skull is thick, probably to protect the brain from impacts. These are not fragile beings. Many species are physically strong, Yuna countered. That does not make them dangerous. True, Doyen said. But combined with forward-facing eyes, omnivore teeth, and the confidence in their voice, these are apex predators who became civilized, not prey species who learned to defend themselves. There is a difference. The 6 hours passed quickly. Tay had his crew prepare the main meeting chamber, adjusting the atmosphere and gravity to what humans would find comfortable, according to the data they had been sent. When the human shuttle arrived, it moved with a grace that surprised Tay. It was not the largest vessel, but its design spoke of efficiency and purpose. No wasted space, no decorative elements. It was a tool, built for a specific function. The docking process was smooth. Tay, Yuna, and Doyen went to the airlock to greet their visitors. Behind them stood a medical team and several other crew members who wanted to witness this historic moment. The airlock opened. 3 humans stepped through. Jiwan was in the center, flanked by 2 others. One was taller with short brown hair and wore what looked like a formal uniform. The other was shorter with long black hair tied back and wore similar clothing, but what struck Tay immediately was how they moved. Smooth, balanced, efficient. Every step was controlled. These were not clumsy movements. These were the movements of beings who knew exactly where their bodies were in space at all times. Athletes or soldiers. Captain Tay, Jiwan said, extending a hand in the human greeting gesture they had been briefed about. It is an honor to meet you. Tay reached out carefully and grasped the human's hand. The skin was warm, much warmer than his own, and the grip was strong, though Jiwan was clearly being gentle. The honor is ours, Tay said. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Jiwan gestured to the others. This is Ambassador Hajun, who will be handling formal negotiations. And this is Captain Somian of our defense forces, who is here to advise on security matters. Security matters. Of course, humans would bring a military officer to a peaceful first contact. They moved to the meeting chamber. Tay had arranged comfortable seating and had prepared refreshments that should be safe for humans based on their biological data. As they sat down, Yuna began the formal diplomatic process. We represent the Galactic Union, an alliance of 317 species dedicated to peaceful cooperation, trade, and mutual defense. We explore the galaxy seeking new friends and partners. That sounds wonderful, Hajun said. His voice was deeper than Jiwon's but equally clear. Earth would be very interested in joining such an alliance. We have been alone for our entire history. The idea of having neighbors is exciting. We would need to go through proper procedures, Yuna explained. Assessments, cultural exchanges, verification of peaceful intentions. It can take several years. We understand, Hajun said. We are patient. Tay remembered the legends about humans hunting prey by following it for days or weeks until it collapsed from exhaustion. Persistence predators were always patient. The conversation continued. They discussed basic information. Earth's location, population, technological level, governmental structure. The humans were remarkably open, sharing information freely. They asked questions about the Union, about other species, about how interstellar society worked. It was all very pleasant and professional. Then Yuna made a mistake. If you would not mind, she said, we would love to visit Earth at some point, to see your world with our own eyes. Soman, the military human who had been quiet until now, spoke for the first time. That would be difficult. Your species evolved on a much lighter world, yes? Earth's gravity is approximately 2.8 times galactic standard. There was a pause. Tay felt his heart beat faster. 8 times? Doyen said slowly. You live every day in gravity nearly triple what we consider normal? For us it is normal, Jiwon said with a small smile. Is that unusual? Yes, Yuna said faintly. Very unusual. Most species could not stand upright in that gravity, let alone function normally. Oh. Hajun looked genuinely surprised. We did not realize. Does that mean your worlds are lighter? More comfortable? To us they are comfortable, Tay said. To you they might feel like you are floating. Interesting, Soman said. She made a note on a device she carried. We will need to adjust our training programs. Our soldiers will need to practice fighting in low-gravity environments. Fighting. She immediately thought of combat applications. The rest of the meeting continued, but everyone was more cautious now. The humans, for their part, seemed genuinely friendly. They laughed at jokes, asked thoughtful questions, and showed real interest in learning about the Union. But small things kept appearing that reminded Tay of what they were. Hajun casually mentioned that humans regularly swam in water for recreation, despite their planet having predators that could kill them. Jiwon talked about hiking through wilderness areas where the temperature changed by 50 degrees in a single day. Salman mentioned that basic military training involved carrying heavy equipment while running for long distances, things that would kill most species. Humans did for fun. As the meeting ended and the humans prepared to leave, Yuna suddenly swayed on her feet. The gravity in the chamber had been adjusted to human standard for courtesy, but she had been standing for too long. Station Kairos floated in the empty space between star systems, a neutral meeting point where humans and the Galactic Union could conduct trade and cultural exchange. It had been 6 months since first contact, and the station had become a symbol of the new friendship between species. Minho worked in the cargo bay, moving containers with the mechanical loader he operated. He was a large human, even by human standards, with broad shoulders and arms marked with old scars. He had been a soldier once, back on Earth, but now he loaded freight and tried to forget the things he had done in war. The work was simple. The aliens he worked with were nervous around him at first, but they learned he was careful not to hurt anyone. He always moved slowly near them, kept his voice quiet, smiled often. After a few months, some of them even joked with him. Minho, your species really eats meat from animals? A small blue alien named Kip asked during their break. You hunt and kill other creatures? Minho took a drink from his water container. Yes, but most humans buy meat at stores now. We do not hunt much anymore except for sport or in rural areas. Sport? Kip's eyes widened. You kill for entertainment? Some people do, Minho admitted. But many humans think it is wrong. We argue about it a lot. He smiled. Humans argue about everything. It is our nature. Kip seemed to relax slightly. That is good. Arguing is better than fighting. Minho agreed, though he could have told Kip that humans were very good at both. Elsewhere on the station, Sujin worked in the medical bay. She was a doctor, trained to treat both humans and the various alien species that visited the station. It was challenging work. Different species had completely different biology, different reactions to medicine, different pain tolerances. She had learned quickly that what humans considered mild discomfort, most aliens considered serious pain. A simple bump that would give a human a small bruise could crack an alien's bone. It made her extremely careful in her work. Dr. Sujin, one of her alien assistants, called. "The latest shipment of supplies has arrived. Should I store them?" "Yes, thank you," Sujin said, reviewing her inventory. "Put the pain medication in the locked cabinet. Some species could overdose on what we consider a normal dose." The assistant nodded and left. Sujin returned to her work, feeling content. This was good work. Helping people. Building bridges between species. This was why she had left Earth. In the station's control center, June managed the daily operations. He was a Velkari, a species known for their administrative skills and calm temperament. He had been nervous when humans first arrived on the station, but they had proven to be good residents. They followed the rules, paid their fees, and helped other residents when needed. The only problem was that human music was very loud, and they seemed to enjoy foods that smelled terrible to other species. But these were minor issues. "Administrator." "June," his assistant said, "we have an unknown vessel approaching. They are not responding to hails." June felt a flutter of worry in his chest. "Send the standard warning. If they do not respond, activate the defense protocols." But before the warning could be sent, the vessel opened fire. The first explosion rocked the station. Alarms blared. Screens showed hull breaches in 3 sections. People screamed in panic. "Pirates!" someone shouted. "The Bloodclaw clan!" June's hands shook as he tried to send a distress signal, but the communications array was damaged. They were alone, and the pirates were boarding. The Bloodclaw clan were famous across the galaxy. They were raiders who took what they wanted and killed anyone who resisted. They were one of the few aggressive species in the Union, and they used that aggression to terrorize peaceful civilizations. In the cargo bay, Minho heard the explosion and knew immediately what it meant. He had heard that sound too many times in his old life. He dropped his tools and ran toward the emergency locker, pulling out the environment suit stored there. "Kip, get to the safe rooms," he shouted at his coworker. "Now, run!" Kip stood frozen in fear. Minho grabbed him and physically carried him to the nearest safe room, pushing him inside. "Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except station security." "What about you?" Kip asked, his voice high with terror. "I will be fine," Minho said. It was probably a lie, but it made Kip feel better. More explosions. More screams. Minho sealed his environment suit and grabbed a heavy metal bar from the cargo equipment. It was not a weapon, officially, but it could be. In the medical bay, Sujin heard the screams of injured people being brought in. She worked quickly, treating burns and broken bones. But then armed pirates burst through the door. They were tall, covered in thick scales, carrying weapons that looked brutal and efficient. One of them pointed his gun at Sujin. "You, Doctor, you come with us. Anyone tries to stop us, we start killing hostages." Sujin raised her hands slowly. "I will come. Please do not hurt anyone." They grabbed her and dragged her toward the central hub of the station, where they were gathering prisoners, hundreds of aliens huddled together, crying and shaking with fear. The pirates laughed at their terror. In the control center, the pirate leader stood over June. He was bigger than the other pirates, with more scars and better weapons. "Send a message to the Union," the pirate leader, Krevnash, ordered. "Tell them we want ships, supplies, weapons. They have 12 hours. If they refuse, we start killing one hostage every hour." June's hands shook so badly he could barely operate the controls. "Please, these are innocent people." Krevnash hit him casually, and June fell to the floor, his face bleeding. "Send the message." June sent it. He knew the Union would negotiate, they always did. Violence was rare among civilized species. They would give the pirates what they wanted, and maybe everyone would survive. But he had forgotten about the humans. Minho moved through the damaged sections of the station like a ghost. His military training came back as if he had never stopped being a soldier. He knew how to move quietly, how to use shadows, how to think like an enemy. He found 2 pirates guarding a corridor. They were relaxed, confident. They did not expect resistance. Minho studied them for a moment. They were bigger than him, stronger probably, but they had never fought a human before. He moved fast. The metal bar came down on the first pirate's weapon arm, breaking it with a crack that echoed in the corridor. The pirate screamed. Before the second one could react, Minho swept his legs out and brought the bar down on his head. Both pirates lay unconscious. Minho took their weapons, checked them quickly, and kept moving. He found 3 more pirates, then 5. Each time he used surprise and speed and the environment itself as weapons. Drop a cargo container on them, seal them in a room and vent the atmosphere. Lure them into areas where the low gravity gave him an advantage. The pirates began to realize something was wrong. Their comrades were disappearing. Not killed always, but incapacitated, injured, removed from the fight. "Something is hunting us," one pirate said nervously into his communicator. Minho heard it over the radio he had taken. He smiled grimly. Yes, something was hunting them. In the central hub, Sujin tended to injured hostages while the pirates guarded them. She counted 12 pirates here, too many for one person to fight. But then she heard a sound. Metal scraping. One of the air vents was opening. Minho dropped from the vent into the middle of the pirates. What happened next was fast and brutal. Minho moved like liquid violence, using the weapons he had taken, using his environment, using every dirty trick he had learned in years of warfare. He targeted joints and weak points. He used hostages as cover when he had to, knowing the pirates would not risk shooting their leverage. In 30 seconds, half the pirates were down. The others tried to organize, tried to respond, but they had never faced an enemy like this before. Sujin watched in shock and horror and awe. This was what humans could do. This was what happened when you took a predator species and gave them intelligence and training and purpose. The pirates tried to retreat, but Minho had already sealed the exits. They were trapped in the room with him. "Stop!" Krevnash's voice came over the speakers. "Stop, or I start killing hostages in the control center." Minho froze. He looked at Sujin, and she saw the calculation in his eyes. He was weighing lives, thinking, planning. Then he smiled at her. It was not a nice smile. "Administrator June," Minho said calmly into the communicator he carried. "Are you in the control center?" "Yes," June's terrified voice responded. "How many pirates are with you?" 3, including their leader. "Are there any hostages in the room?" "Just me." Minho looked at the vent system map on a nearby screen. "Good. In 30 seconds, the gravity in that room is going to shut off. When it does, close your eyes and cover your ears. Understand?" Yes." Minho looked at Sujin. "Help these people. Get them to the safe rooms." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Something stupid," he said, "but effective." He disappeared back into the vents. In the control center, Krevnash paced angrily. "Where are my soldiers? Why are they not responding?" Then the gravity turned off. Everything in the room began to float. "What is this?" Krevnash demanded. "Turn it back on." The vent opened. Minho came through like a bullet, using the zero gravity to move in ways that should not be possible. He hit Krevnash with his full body weight, driving them both into a wall. In zero gravity with no training, the pirates flailed uselessly. Minho knew exactly what he was doing. He had trained for zero-G combat. The colony on planet Kelvor was dying. Administrator Mirai looked at the reports with growing despair. The volcanic activity was increasing. Toxic gases filled the air. The temperature was rising daily. In 2 weeks, maybe 3, the entire colony would be uninhabitable. They needed to evacuate 5,000 colonists, but the rescue ships would take a month to arrive. "We will not survive that long," her assistant said quietly. "The protective domes are failing. The filtration systems cannot handle the gas levels. Mirai wanted to argue, but she knew it was true. Her people were prey species, evolved on gentle worlds with kind climates. This planet had seemed safe when they colonized it 10 years ago. But something had changed deep underground. Now the planet was becoming hostile, and her people would die. Send another distress signal, she said. Tell them we have 2 weeks at most. Maybe they can send ships faster. But she knew they could not. The nearest rescue fleet was too far away. This was the frontier, the edge of explored space. Help was always slow to arrive here. The next day, she received an unexpected response. This is the Earth vessel determination, a human voice said over the communication channel. We received your distress call. We are 3 days away. Can you survive that long? Mirai felt hope and fear mixed together. Humans, the species that everyone whispered about, the monsters from the legends. But they were offering help. Yes, she said. We can survive 3 more days. But I do not understand. What can you do that our own rescue ships cannot? There was a pause. Then the human said, we can work in environments that would kill most species. Our people are trained for extreme situations. If your planet is becoming hostile, that is exactly where humans are most useful. 3 days later, the human ship arrived. It was smaller than Mirai expected, designed for efficiency rather than size. When the shuttle landed at the colony's main dome, Mirai and her staff went to meet them. 2 humans emerged. One was tall and thin, wearing a suit that looked surprisingly light considering the hostile environment outside. The other was shorter and more muscular, carrying equipment that seemed impossibly heavy. I am Gunwu, the tall one said, bowing slightly in a gesture of respect. I am a xenobiologist. This is Yunbi, our environmental engineer. We are here to help. Mirai bowed back, trying not to show her nervousness. These were humans. Predators. Beings who came from a death world, but they seemed polite. Thank you for coming, she said. But I must warn you, the conditions outside are extreme. The temperature is over 380 degrees. The air is toxic. The gas will burn through most protective equipment. Gunwu smiled. It was a kind smile. We have worked in worse. May we see your data on the volcanic activity? Mirai led them to the control center. She showed them the readings, the projections, the failing systems. She expected them to tell her there was nothing they could do, that the situation was hopeless. Instead, Yunbi pointed at the map. Here and here. These are the main volcanic vents causing the gas release. If we can seal them or redirect the flow, the atmospheric contamination will decrease significantly. Seal them, Mirai's assistant said. That is impossible. Nothing can survive near those vents. The heat alone is manageable, Yunbi interrupted gently. I have worked in higher temperatures. The bigger problem is the toxic gas, but our suits can handle it for several hours. Several hours. In an environment that would kill any Union species in minutes. Show me your protective equipment, Gunwu said. I need to understand what your people can tolerate so I know what areas to prioritize. As they worked, Mirai watched the humans carefully. They moved with purpose and confidence, but not arrogance. They asked questions, listened to answers, and planned carefully. We will need to go outside, Yunbi said after reviewing all the data. I need to see the vents directly to know how to seal them. Gunwu will check on the colonists who are showing symptoms from gas exposure. I will come with you, Mirai said quickly. I should document this for the council. Gunwu looked at her thoughtfully. Can you survive in the environment outside? In my protective suit for short periods. Maybe an hour. Then you will stay close to me, Gunwu said. I will watch your suit's readings. If you start to struggle, we return immediately. Agreed? Mirai agreed. Going outside was like stepping into a nightmare. Even through her protective suit, she could feel the heat. The air was thick with toxic gases that made visibility poor. The ground shook constantly from underground tremors. But Gunwu walked through it like he was taking a casual stroll. The temperature is higher than we thought, he said calmly into his communicator. Yunbi, you will need to adjust your equipment timing. Acknowledged, Yunbi's voice responded. I am at the first vent now. Beginning assessment. Mirai followed Gunwu as he examined the colony's external sensors, checking damage, taking samples of the toxic air. His movements were methodical and professional. He showed no signs of discomfort, even though Mirai's suit alarms were already warning her that she was approaching her safe exposure limit. Your readings are dropping, Gunwu said, checking a device on his wrist. We should go back. But we have only been out here 40 minutes, Mirai protested. That is enough for now. I have what I need. He led her back to the airlock, and once inside, he helped her remove her suit carefully. Are you feeling okay? Mirai realized she was shaking. The heat, the fear, the stress of the dying colony. It all hit her at once. I am fine, she lied. Gunwoo gave her a knowing look but did not argue. Rest, drink water. I need to check on the colonists with respiratory problems. Mirai watched him work through the day. He moved through the medical bay with gentle confidence, examining patients, adjusting treatments, explaining to the medical staff how human biology dealt with toxins differently. He was kind to everyone, even when they were afraid of him. Meanwhile, Yunbi worked outside in conditions that should have been fatal. Mirai watched through cameras as the human moved near the volcanic vents, placing equipment, taking measurements, doing things that seemed impossible. At one point, Yunbi's suit tore on sharp volcanic rock. Toxic gas began leaking in. Mirai gasped, reaching for the emergency communication. But Yunbi simply sealed the tear with some kind of quick-hardening foam and kept working. Yunbi, your suit is compromised, Gunwoo said over the communication channel, his voice tight with concern. I know. It is fine, I sealed it. I have another 20 minutes before I need to return. 10 minutes, Gunwoo corrected. Then you come back whether the work is done or not. 15, Yunbi negotiated. 12. Final offer. Mirai heard Yunbi laugh. Deal. Humans and their bargaining. They worked for 3 days straight. Mirai documented everything, sending reports back to the council that she knew would seem impossible. But she had video evidence. She had data. She had watched these humans do things that defied everything she knew about biology. Gunwoo worked in the toxic environment for hours at a time. Yunbi regularly exposed herself to temperatures that would literally cook most species. When one protective suit failed completely, Yunbi simply put on a spare and went back to work. How do you do this? Mirai asked Gunwoo on the third day. How can you survive in conditions that kill others? Gunwoo was quiet for a moment. Our planet tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Extreme heat, extreme cold, predators, diseases, poisons, our bodies adapted to survive all of it. We developed redundant organs so if one failed, others could compensate. We developed efficient cooling systems so we could work in high heat. We developed the ability to process toxins that would kill other species. But you are so kind, Mirai said. You are gentle with patients. You are careful with equipment. You are not what the legends described. The legends described what we can do. Gunwoo corrected. Not who we are. Yes, we can survive extreme environments. Yes, we are adapted to be very good at violence if needed, but we are also adapted to cooperate, to protect our community, to care for the injured. Both things are true. On the fourth day, Yunbi finished sealing the volcanic vents. The gas levels began to drop. The temperature stabilized. The colony would survive until the rescue ships arrived. Mirai stood with Gunwoo and Yunbi as they prepared to leave. I do not know how to thank you, she said. You saved 5,000 lives. We were happy to help, Yunbi said. She was covered in burns and bruises, her hands wrapped in medical bandages, but she smiled. That is what neighbors do. After they left, Mirai prepared her final report for the council. She included all the data, all the videos, all the evidence of what she had witnessed, but she also included her personal observations about how the humans had been kind, how they had been professional, how they had risked their lives repeatedly to save people they had never met. The council representative who reviewed her report was Thelgor, a politician who had been arguing that humans were too dangerous to integrate into the Union. This report is concerning, Thelgor said during their communication. It proves that humans are incredibly dangerous. They can survive in environments that would kill us. They can work in conditions we cannot even enter. If they chose to be hostile, we would have no way to stop them. But they are not hostile, Mirai argued. They came to help. They saved my colony. They asked for nothing in return. Today they helped, Thelgor said darkly. But what about tomorrow? The war began without warning. The Keshtar hive burst through the outer territories of the Galactic Union like a storm of destruction. They were insectoid warriors, a species that had conquered 20 systems through pure aggression. They had watched the peaceful prey species of the Union for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. That moment came when they heard about humans. Another prey species, the Keshtar Queen said. her mandibles clicking with amusement. But these ones think they are special. These humans that the Union whispers about. We will crush them first to show the Union that their new pets are worthless. The first 3 Union colonies fell in days. The defense fleets designed for deterrence rather than actual combat were swept aside. The Keshtar took prisoners, took resources, and sent a clear message: submit or die. The Union Council met in emergency session. Hyun, who had studied humans for 2 years now, stood before them with a grim expression. We need to request military assistance from Earth, he said. Our forces cannot stand against the Keshtar. We are not built for this kind of warfare. Asking humans to fight for us? Thelgor protested. This is exactly what I warned about. We will owe them everything. They will control us. Better to be controlled than dead, another council member said quietly. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, they had no choice. A formal request was sent to Earth. The response came within an hour. This is Admiral Jaewon of the Earth Defense Fleet, a human voice said. The video showed a middle-aged human with gray hair and sharp eyes. We have reviewed your situation. We are mobilizing our forces now. We will arrive in your space within 3 days. Hold your positions. We are coming, 3 days. The humans could mobilize an entire military fleet in 3 days. The Union had taken 3 weeks just to decide to ask for help. Admiral Jaewon's fleet arrived exactly when promised. Hyun watched from the command station as dozens of human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They were different from Union vessels, more aggressive in design, built for combat, not exploration. This is Admiral Jaewon to all Union forces, the human's voice echoed across all channels. We are here to help. Please transmit all tactical data on Keshtar positions, fleet strength, and combat capabilities. We will coordinate our response. Within an hour, the human fleet had integrated with Union forces. Within 2 hours, they had a battle plan. Within 3 hours, they were moving to engage the enemy. Hyun was assigned as a liaison officer on Jaewon's flagship. He stood on the bridge watching the crew work with calm efficiency. They were preparing for battle, but there was no panic, no fear, just focused determination. Admiral, Hyun said carefully, the Keshtar are experienced warriors. They have conquered many worlds. They will not be easy to defeat. Jaewon looked at him with those sharp eyes. Neither will we. The first battle happened near a contested colony. The Keshtar fleet was larger, more numerous. They were confident. That confidence lasted approximately 4 minutes. The human attack was unlike anything Hyun had ever seen. It was not the honorable combat of traditional warfare. It was not about minimal casualties or preserving resources. It was about winning as efficiently and completely as possible. Human ships used kinetic weapons that hit with devastating force. They used nuclear missiles that the Union had banned centuries ago as too destructive. They used electronic warfare to blind enemy sensors. They used tactics that seemed chaotic but were actually precisely calculated. The Keshtar fought back fiercely, but they were not prepared for an enemy that fought like they did. An enemy that understood violence not as a last resort, but as a tool to be used expertly. In 30 minutes, the Keshtar fleet was destroyed or retreating. All vessels, begin search and rescue operations, Jaewon ordered calmly. Prioritize Union personnel first, then Keshtar survivors. Survivors? Hyun said in surprise. You are rescuing enemy combatants? Of course, Jaewon said. They are defeated. Now they are prisoners. We treat prisoners with dignity. Hyun realized something important. Humans were very good at violence, but they also had rules about when and how to use it. They could be brutal in combat and merciful in victory, both at the same time. The war continued for weeks. The Keshtar kept attacking, kept pushing, kept trying to break through human defenses, but they could not. On the ground, it was even worse for the Keshtar. Nari led a human marine force to retake a colony that the Keshtar had captured. She was shorter than most humans, but Hyun had learned that size did not matter with humans. Their strength came from training, strategy, and sheer determination. We will drop directly into the combat zone, Nari explained to the Union commanders who were observing. Fast insertion. Secure the civilians. Neutralize enemy combatants. Standard urban warfare. But there are thousands of Keshtar soldiers on that planet. A Union general protested. You only have 500 Marines. Nari smiled. It was not a nice smile. That should be enough. She was right. The Marines dropped from orbit in armored pods, crashing into the city like meteorites. They moved through the urban environment like water flowing around rocks. They knew exactly where to go, how to fight, when to be aggressive and when to be cautious. The Keshtar had never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that used the environment. That set ambushes. That coordinated perfectly. That refused to give up no matter how bad the situation became. In 3 days, the colony was liberated. The Keshtar forces were defeated, and the human casualties were remarkably low. How do they do it? The Union general asked Hyun. How can so few defeat so many? Hyun had been studying human military history. Humans have been fighting wars for their entire existence. They have thousands of years of experience. They have studied every type of combat. They have doctrines and strategies and training that we cannot even imagine. War is not new to them. It is part of their cultural memory. It was a sobering thought. After 6 weeks of fighting, the Keshtar Queen sent a message. She demanded ritual combat, a fight between champions to determine the outcome of the war. It was their tradition, their way of avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. The Union Council wanted to refuse. They did not have champions who could fight Keshtar warriors, but Nari volunteered. This is foolish, Hyun told her before the fight. The Keshtar champion is 3 times your size. He has natural armor, weapons built into his body. You will die. Nari checked her equipment calmly. Maybe, but I do not think so. Why are you so confident? She looked at him with steady eyes. Because I know something the Keshtar do not. Size and natural weapons are advantages, yes, but intelligence and training and willingness to win are better advantages. And humans have a lot of experience fighting enemies that are bigger and stronger than we are. We had to, our planet was full of them. The ritual combat took place on a neutral station. The Keshtar champion was enormous, covered in thick chitin armor with blade-like appendages and mandibles that could crush metal. Nari was small in comparison. She wore light armor and carried a simple blade. They faced each other in the fighting circle. The Keshtar champion roared, a sound that echoed through the station. Nari said nothing. She just waited. The fight began. The Keshtar champion attacked with brutal force, expecting an easy victory. But Nari was not where he expected. She moved like smoke, dodging his attacks, studying his patterns. Humans were persistence predators. They watched. They learned. They adapted. The champion grew frustrated. He attacked faster, harder. But Nari stayed calm. She waited for the perfect moment. When it came, she struck with surgical precision, not at his armor, but at the joints between armor plates, not trying to overpower him, but exploiting his weaknesses. In 5 minutes, the fight was over. The Keshtar champion lay defeated, wounded but alive. Nari stood over him with her blade ready. The rules said she could kill him now, that it would be honorable. Instead, she put away her blade and extended her hand to help him up. The Keshtar champion stared at her in confusion. You, spare me. You fought with honor, Nari said simply. Now the fight is done. We do not need to be enemies anymore. The Keshtar champion took her hand. She pulled him to his feet even though he weighed far more than any human should be able to lift. I do not understand your species, the champion said. You fight like demons, but you show mercy like, I do not know what. Like people who know that today's enemy might be tomorrow's friend, Nari said. We have learned this lesson many times on our own world. The Keshtar queen honored the ritual combat. The war ended. The Keshtar withdrew from Union space, but they did something unexpected. They requested diplomatic talks, not with the Union, with humanity. We want to understand you, the Queen said during the first meeting. You defeated us completely. You could have destroyed us, but you chose mercy. Why? Admiral Jaewon, Nari, and a diplomatic team met with the Keshtar leadership. Hyun was there as an observer. Because we know what it is like to be warriors, Jaewon said. On our planet we fought each other for thousands of years. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation. We learned that winning the war is not the same as winning the peace. We learned that defeated enemies can become allies if you treat them with respect. The Queen tilted her head. We thought the Union were weak because they feared violence. But you are not weak. You understand violence better than we do,